The Australian Financial Review.
They say, don't mix business with family. But this boss wouldn't have it any other way.
Family business, it's a rapidly changing space. There's no shortcut to it apart from, communication. It was a moment where I realised that this is a whole new world I'm entering into with my family. And how exciting is that?
Welcome to Season 4 of 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success, failure, and all the lessons learnt along the way. I'm your host, Sally Patten, and my guest today is Dan White, the Managing Director of the Ray White Group, Australia's largest real estate company, established by the White family more than a century ago in 1902. Hi Dan, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Sally. Great to be here.
Now, Dan, we haven't got long. We've only got 15 minutes, so I'm going to start the clock right now. And my first question is about your morning routine. What time do you get up? What happens?
Yeah, well, I like to get up early, get ahead of the day. I'm an early person. 5:30, I like to get into it. I wouldn't say I have a daily routine. I do a fair bit of travel, so my days do move around a fair bit. But a coffee, absolutely. It's a sort of bit of a highlight of the day for me.
So when you're in Sydney and you get up at 5:30, typically what would happen?
Get down to exercise. I've got guys I train with in Bondi, great community. I like sort of getting in there and enjoying that for an hour or so and having a coffee after that, sort of enjoying the quiet time and getting back to the family, the dogs and that sort of thing, getting them out for a walk. So that's a Sydney day. Lucky to live in a beautiful city, eastern suburbs. It's a special place and make the most of that.
And do you have breakfast?
I'm not a big breakfast person. No, I've never been into the breakfast thing. I know that's probably not good advice, but I like to keep moving.
My next question is about your career. Was there a pivotal moment in your career, something that happened, a project that you worked on that really changed the nature or the direction of what you were doing?
I suppose there was a moment early in my career. I was working for another firm, professional services firm, and I did a job for one of the partners. So it was a project where a client had an urgent matter they needed to resolve for their final tax returns. It was to do with their return of stock, and we had to go out to their factory and obviously count things and reconcile things. I was out there a lot of the time on my own, and every day the partner would come in for maybe 10 minutes and check on it, but didn't give me a lot of feedback. And I'd never done it before. So there was a lot of new things for me, and I wasn't getting a lot of day-to-day direction about what would happen. And I finally did my report, and I honestly didn't know if I'd done it well or not, just because it was new and I hadn't had much feedback on the way through. And then a week later, the partner came to my desk unexpectedly and gave me what's called a green sheet. I don't even know what these things were, but it was a form done by the partner to say, Dan did a good job on this and put it on your personnel file. And I remember the moment he gave that to me, it was a big sort of surprise, and it gave me a lot of confidence. And I think that unexpected recognition and praise from a leader certainly had a big impact on me. And it changed from someone saying, do I fit here? Do I belong? Am I relevant? Am I contributing to the success of the group? Suddenly to get that affirmation from someone like him, I think I was off after that. It was good for me.
Is that something that you try and do yourself in your current job?
Yeah, I think praise is obviously an underrated thing in leadership. If it's not the most important thing, it's certainly right up there. When people put the effort in, if you're not going to recognise that and praise that, then how can you expect people to want to do that and contribute to the firm? If you're not quickly recognising the effort that people put in and the commitment they make to themselves, their clients, and to the group overall, you're missing a huge thing in leadership. And it's an enjoyable thing to do, obviously. It's a special thing. Yeah,
so as a leader, that's something that you consciously think about. Like, am I distributing praise where it's due?
Absolutely. I think it's the most important thing. The monthly results, it's not to get the figures about how we've gone as a group. It's like which individuals had their best month. So, I think any opportunity to find ways to recognise effort and reward that effort really should be at the top of my day. I think we can do lots of stuff as leaders. We can talk about strategy and these sort of concepts that we know are important. But fundamentally, if you're not praising and recognising performance and effort, then you can't expect those things to take shape. Whatever strategy you have, it won't come to fruition. Whatever decisions you make won't matter if people don't feel like they're part of something, they don't feel like they belong, and they don't feel like they're being recognised.
Okay, my next question is about career advice. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
I remember early in my career, I was looking at an issue at work I was doing, and one of the guys said to me, that you are the problem and you are the solution, which is a phrase that I've sort of used since, the concept of even though you're inside a group, you're still ultimately personally responsible for things. You got to have self-reflection. You got to be prepared to adapt and to grow. And ultimately, we are our own boss. And that logic for me came early. And so I'd say to people, if you want to advance and you want to keep growing and have more impact, don't wait to be delegated to. Those leaders and managers are probably hoping that you're going to show some initiative as well and go and grab the opportunity. Don't be expected to be given the clear path. You've got to go out and step up and find it yourself and take things away from other people without them sort of knowing. It goes to relationships as well. If someone's important to the firm or the group and they relate to your senior, then how do you build a relationship with that person? How are you going to be relevant to he or her? What things can you do to have a connection with that person that then enables the leader in your business to do other things as well? So it applies not only to jobs and projects, but certainly to relationships as well.
Now, Dan, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you get to pick the questions. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Dan White, the Managing Director of Australia's largest real estate company, the Ray White Group. Now, Dan, in front of you is a cardboard box with about 20 random questions inside. I'm going to ask you to pick some out one by one. Let's get started. If you could give a TED talk on something, what would you talk about?
Well, I think I'd probably talk about family business because that's what I know best and what I've been involved in longest, and something I continue to be more interested in, funnily enough. Fourth generation family business now, hopefully become 5 one day. How do you do that? What are the key challenges we had to overcome or ways in which we worked that through? The idea about the great liberating concept of being a custodian of a business, of something that's been going for 120 years, and the joy that can come from that and the opportunity and how you need to ensure that the business keeps evolving and keeps growing. And what's it like working with father and brothers and uncles and cousins and that sort of thing.
So tell me about the dinner time conversations when you were a child. Were you sort of being inculcated with the whole idea of business and property from a very young age?
Yeah, we were. Saturdays after cricket games, we'd be at auctions with my father, and I remember fighting with my brothers on the ground, trying to wrestle my father's calling auctions and things like that when we were little kids.
Oh, your father was actually doing the auctioning?
He was, yeah. And then as business went national, we were sort of at, in our teens, and so we saw the challenges and the stress and what comes with trying to take a very local business to a national and international business. So not just property, but the whole entrepreneurship and the challenges that comes with the leadership. We saw that from a young age. I think that's why we were all attracted to the family business, because we did see it. It was right in front of us, and Brian was always too happy to discuss it and talk about where he was up to.
And what, from your point of view, are the key challenges in a family-run business?
The key things, obviously, communication and understanding each other's personal ambitions. And I think family businesses can get caught up with having too much structure, too many rules and too many ways of doing things. And I think in the family, individuals change, their family circumstances change, what their kids want to do and that sort of thing. So it's a rapidly changing space, and there's no shortcut to it apart from, communication.
Right. Okay. I have another fish in the box. What's the hardest thing about leadership?
I think the hardest thing about leadership is your own mindset. It's having the confidence or having the energy to keep leading, keep improving yourself and being able to take on the challenges that come your way. Leadership is such a privilege. We get so much opportunity. We can influence so many people. It's a wonderful gift to have, to work at. The hardest bit is just making sure that you're able to continue on that journey and keep energized, keep moving forward and overcoming the setbacks that obviously that come our way.
So what do you do to keep on improving yourself?
So I've always believed that leadership is definitely a skill that you can work on like anything, like any skill you think of, whether it's in sport, like your forehand or whatever. Leadership is definitely a skill that might come more naturally to others, but we can all improve our skills. I go overseas to study, leadership in universities in America and that sort of thing. So very much committed to that process. We bring a Harvard Professor Boris Grosberg, out to Australia every year to talk to our leaders, to run through case studies of leadership, which is great. Just seeing the response of our leaders inside our business to him is incredible. And I think it's a great compliment to your team to say to them, well, look, we really believe in you and we're bringing the best talent we think's in the world on leadership to come and spend time with you. And good people react really positively to that.
And how often would you go offshore to do some kind of leadership course?
Yeah, it's an annual thing. Yeah, it's in January, it's the start of the year. So that's always a good way to start the year as well. Fresh, come back with plenty of ideas and totally energised for the year ahead. It's a fantastic way to begin the year.
And when you go away in January, do you always go to the same place? And if so, where?
Yeah, so it's in Boston at Harvard Business School. It's cold. It's a cold time of year, but it's case study driven. You study companies from around the world. There's people from an international basis. So there's just so much energy and new ideas, and you get a perspective of what's happening in the world, but also what's happening in other industries as well. So part of it's the formal education is amazing, but the informal education is just as important. Wow.
And are there one or two things that you've learnt in that course that really stand out?
I think the concept of, one of the great lessons I had there was one of the professors said, who in this lecture hall thinks they're successful? And, 3/4 of the room puts their hand up. And he says, well, you guys are the most likely to fail. And the line was, that nothing fails like success. Success can often breed complacency, a lot of hubris, lack of innovation, or let's just keep doing things the same way, we're doing well, or we're doing well, therefore we deserve to get more. So I put my hand up because we had a good year and the business has been improving. And that was, to me, like a great just moment of realisation to think, keep questioning everything. That was a pretty special moment.
Yeah, that's really interesting and a really good thing to take with you, that you can't be complacent.
Exactly, yeah. You think success is that's what we all want, and then you get there and then there's a real risk in that. That's probably the exciting thing about leadership is how do you create change and improve a business that's already successful? Because, in times like GFCs and COVIDs, leadership's a bit easier because everyone's looking at you, there's uncertainty and that sort of thing. But when things are going well, how do you create urgency to change? How do you create excitement about doing things differently when things are successful? That's the real hard part of leadership.
And how do you do that?
I think creating the case for change is often hard. The harder part is communicating the reasons why. And you're communicating to a skeptic that switch off after the first few minutes. So you've got to keep coming back and back and back. And you've just got to be absolutely persistent with a simple message constantly. And the old line, until you're absolutely sick of talking about it, they're only just starting to listen. And so there's no shortcut, unfortunately. It's just a game of complete repetition. And you think you're going crazy because you've said it so many times. And it's not gelling yet, but eventually you start to see a green shoot, then someone else starts to pick it up, and then all of a sudden you can build a bit of momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I haven't had another fish in the box. If you could relive one day in your career, which one would it be and why?
Relive one day in my career. Well, I remember joining the family business and my father was there and my elder brother was in the room. And there was a third party presenting. It was my first day at Ray White. And I looked, my father and my brother were in the meeting room and they were total strangers to me. Physically, the way they spoke, their mannerisms, it was like I'd never met them before. And it was a really eerie sort of moment for me to realise that working in a family business, you're seeing the other side of the person. It was a moment where I realised that I got more excited about being part of the family business then, because I realised that this is a whole new world I'm entering into with my family, and how exciting is that?
Yeah.
To me, it was a moment that I'd love to experience again because it was so incredible.
So now, how do you flick the switch when you go from seeing them in office mode and you're in work mode, then you're the next minute around the family table having a family lunch?
That's the catch. So the challenge with family business is stepping away from it. You know, the temptation is to drift back into the work mode and talk about work things, and that's not a good thing.
So do you try very consciously and very hard not to do that?
Absolutely, you try to for sure, and some of my brothers are better at it than I am. So you need to push against it. And obviously all our partners aren't day-to-day in the business, but they all know the business intimately, so they've got good instincts as well. They can talk about the business as good as any of us can. Is it the downside of a family business? It's certainly something you have to be very careful of and make sure you don't lose sight of other things in life outside of the business.
I've now got one final question, which is, if you weren't the managing director of the Ray White Group, what would you be doing?
I think if I didn't work in real estate, I think I would have been something entrepreneurial, but in some business of some type. But I don't know what it is, but I like to think it'd be something that provided for a great place for people to work and a great environment.
So you think you would build another business?
absolutely. The excitement about creating a business and what's involved in that, I think, was ingrained for me from a young age. I don't know what it would be. At university, me and my friends did a couple of startup businesses. We got involved in the music business and we got involved in a water business as well. They didn't work out for various reasons. So I've always been involved in that sort of thing, like trying to create something with friends, with family, to build something, create something where leadership sort of flourishes and we can build something pretty special.
And just like that, Dan, our time is up. Thank you so much for coming in and allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you. Thank you, Sally.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and you want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patten, produced and edited by Iona Rennie. Head of audio is Alex Gow, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini. See you next week.
The Australian Financial Review.